question, but within that question, I have two circumstances. Okay, there's two couples, and in the first couple, there's a relationship in which the two spouses end up, let's say, having constant fights because of maybe not agreeing on how the relationship is going, because one wants to focus on their career, the other one is focusing on maybe, let's say, it's a marriage. And in the second one, there's spouses who are always like, they never get into fights, they're never having any kind of downsides to their relationship. So I was asking, which relationship is more likely to prosper in the end?
Uwe. Kelly.
Yes.
Hey, nani amekutuma? All right. Which one will prosper in the end? Well, I mean, I can tell you as a married person, I like peace. I don't want fights. I hate fights. Now, that's different from disagreements. Disagreements are guaranteed because you're two different people with your own separate wills and minds and preferences and so on. So disagreement is part of the process. The issue is how you deal with the disagreements. That's where I feel those of us in those relationships go wrong. How we choose to resolve conflict or deal with issues where we're not seeing things the same way or eye to eye. So ultimately, I think a relationship where people have healthy conflict resolution, because conflict is guaranteed, you can't avoid conflict. A relationship like that has better chances of success than where the first one or the second one you describe, where they never fight, they never disagree. I don't think that's humanly possible. The only way it is if one or both parties are not sincere or open about their thoughts, their feelings, to avoid conflict. Because I think that's a dishonest situation. I personally have not come across a situation where couples don't fight. I thought I did once. I have an aunt and uncle, probably my oldest aunt and uncle couple, who I never saw them fight ever, not once. I used to spend most of my holidays with their two sons, who were the best thing, the closest thing I had to brothers, because my parents only had one son, and that was me. So I didn't have brothers, except for my two cousins, Ken and Roy, and their parents never fought. I used to envy that, because my parents would disagree even in front of us as kids, and that was a distressful situation for a child to experience, obviously. Until much later on, in my 30s, I was having a conversation with their firstborn, Ken, my older cousin, and he told me, no, man, they used to go at it, they used to disagree. It's just that before they had us kids, they agreed they would never do it in front of the children. They would leave the house if they had to, drive somewhere and go fight, have it out, agree to disagree, whatever, come back, and you did not see the disagreement. So that's the only couple I knew of that never fought, only to find out they actually did, they just kept it private. And what I'm saying is, I could be wrong. Maybe Pius knows couples like that. I don't think it's humanly possible to have a meaningful relationship without conflict. Conflict is part of the process. The issue is how you resolve it. And that's where people go wrong. And I think that relationships where conflict is resolved in a healthy manner will outlive one where there is no conflict, because the only way there is no conflict is if you're both dead, one of you is dead, or one or more of you is not honest about their thoughts, their feelings, and so on. What do you think?
Wow. So I'm wondering whether any more qualified to speak on this subject.
I think you are.
I'm a single. But
you have experience.
I have experience. And, Kelly, I'm trying to think of how to break this down for you. Let me start from before I got married, or when we were planning to get married, Halima and I. We had people approaching us differently, individually, and saying, why are you getting into marriage? Marriage is so difficult. It's such an impossible mission. Why do you want to sacrifice your freedom and get into this thing called marriage? So this was happening to us individually. And when we came together and like, hey, by the way, guys asking me why am I getting into marriage because of the challenges, and like, oh, even you, okay. And we made this prayer to God that God would use our marriage as a model of how He would like marriage to be. So we got married 2009, 17th April, and year one, it was good, very good, and everybody was like, hey, you guys are in honeymoon. You wait for 2 years. 2 years, he said, you guys wait now for children to come. Children came.
How many children?
You want to know?
I know. I'm trying to help them understand how long your experience was.
We got the first child, and guys were like, I'll wait until the child grows. The second one came, the third one, the fourth one. You guys are looking at me like, why are you looking at me like that? And the fifth one. That was June 12, 2022. And my wife died one month later after that. Don't be sad, by the way. Don't be sad. We are done with that part. But the point, so as I was writing my story with her and eulogizing her, the way I could summarize our marriage is that I had the best 12 years of my life yet. The best 12 years of my... I experienced heaven on earth marriage. I cannot remember us ever fighting. We didn't fight. I cannot remember my wife ever raising her voice towards me. And I also can't remember ever raising my voice towards her. Did we ever have at some point different opinions? Yes. But they never matured into conflicts. And when I think about it, from day one, we were so aligned. We were so aligned. And the foundation of the marriage was not we fell in love and then we got married. The foundation of our marriage was that God revealed who my kingdom spouse was, and then we got married, then we fell in love. That's crazy for you, right? Okay, I can see Vanessa is like, these guys are just crazy. Pius, rewind, But yeah, I knew who my wife was before we even dated. And she knew who her husband was before we even dated. And remember that lady I was telling you who was looking like a fluke? That one. So, and it was just out of my journey with God, wow, she's the one, Story for another day. But the thing is this, I also kept questioning myself. Is there something that I am missing or we are missing in our marriage that we are not fighting? is there something wrong? But my msema kweli is always going back to the word. So I asked myself, show me anywhere in the Bible where it says that couples must fight to have a healthy marriage. If you find that verse, please send it to me because I'm yet to find it. My point is, remember we were talking about the free will of man and the supreme will of God. We wrote our marriage on the supreme will of God. We surrendered our free wills. Why do people fight? Most of the time is because of our free wills, isn't it? So our reference point was always the free will. What is the free will of God on this situation? And we never conflicted on that, and that prevailed over every situation that was potentially a place of conflict. And would I do it differently in the future? Absolutely no. Do I believe that I can have a conflict-free marriage? Absolutely yes, with a suitable spouse, a kingdom spouse. And until someone shows me that verse, that will continue being my belief, because that also has been my experience for 12 years. So it's, Kelly, yes. It is possible to have a conflict-free marriage, and that is the best marriage that you should have. We should all aspire to have.
So I have a rebuttal on that.
I knew it was coming.
Yeah, and it's not what you guys think. I think here we have a difference of terminology. So, you know, when I say fights are different from conflict, what I mean is it's possible. By conflict, I mean differing opinions, wants, desires. That's conflict. You want different things, or you want to approach something in different ways. How that is resolved is what determines whether or not there's a fight. So conflict is not synonymous with fight, right?
They're very important.
I just wanted to make that point clear, which is what I was saying. And I agree with Pius, it's possible to have fight-free marriages because you resolve conflict in a healthy way, in a respectful way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm lost, honestly.
So, which one? Where are you lost?
On the fight and conflict part.
Okay, so it's like this. I'm driving down the road. I want to make a left turn. There's someone coming from the opposite direction, trying to make a right turn into the same place. We both turn and almost collide. That's a conflict. Now, what happens from there is either I roll down my window, I flip him the bird, call him a ng'ombe. He does the same. We both jump out and punch each other's lights out. That's a fight. Right? Or I say, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Please go ahead. Or he does the same. And we continue. It's a peaceful day. No punches were exchanged. That's what I mean in terms of conflict. Conflict does not necessarily have to degenerate into fighting. Conflict is simply differing opinions. You know, we were having a debate not too long ago, a conflict.
We mean?
My wife, Aika, and
Okay.
About, you know, what to do for the Christmas holiday after the kids close. Our good friend Richie over here invited us to join he and his family at the coast, because you know Richie is a coast guy. Like, you know, he was like, coast is, if there's no beach in heaven, he ain't going. It's like Richie likes the coast. And he's taking his family, and he kindly, very kindly and generously invited us to join him and his family. And you know, I went home and I said, hey, mother, Richie wanted us to join, see we book, nini. I was like, me, I'm not doing coastal in December. It's too hot. I cannot stand it. It's too humid. It's uncomfortable. She doesn't like the heat. Now, I have no issue with the heat and the humidity and all that. She does. So now we have a conflict about what to do with the holiday season for the kids, right?
Because of heat.
Because of heat. So does it degenerate into a fight, or do we resolve it? You know, in our case, I had to go back to Richie. In fact, it was just last week. I told him, man, I'm sorry, bro. You know, she's not feeling it.
It's Richie or Aika.
You know, I'm not about to be a golf club sleeping there. So, so Richie lost that one. And there was no fight.
No fight.
Conflict was resolved.
Yes.
You know, so that's what I mean by conflict versus fighting. Fighting has to do with raising voice, disrespecting someone by the way you address them. It be degenerate into physical abuse and all manner of ugly things, right? But conflict is not a bad thing. It's a healthy thing. Because you are sentient beings with your own thoughts and hearts and feelings and all that. The question is, how do you resolve the points of conflict?
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Na usitumwe tena.
Hi, my name is Rose Wangwe, and I have 2 questions. But before that, Solomon, I eat cake every day at cafe, and I don't mind my bill paid for 2.5 years going. Capital Center.
Duly noted.
Anyway, so besides that, I wanted to ask, in this 11 years that you talked about, this season that you are in, you and your wife, how she was ready for marriage, you were not yet ready for marriage. So how did you two navigate that time? And also, let me just ask a question. Should I tell my partner about all my financial investments and how much I'm earning, and should I be open to them about my finances? And should they also be open to me, or they can hide it?
They're coming hot and fast. So I'll take the second one, you can take the first one.
Okay. All right, so graduation day is when she expected. She had a whole plan in her head. I was told later. I didn't get the memo. She had a whole plan in her head how her mom, who had flown from here to there for her graduation, we had dated, 4 years at that point. She just knew I was going to get on one knee in front of her mom after graduation during dinner or something to propose, and she would say yes, and then we'd live happily ever after. But like I said, I didn't get the memo. So she grew frustrated. And another 7 years. 7 years went by. 3 years went by. I was still trying to get, my footing in life. Like, what am I doing? I can't go back to school. My Chile has graduated. Me, I haven't graduated. She moved states. She got employed. Unlike myself, she was having an unknowingly good time in the US. Like, everything was just click, click, click. It was working out good for her. And so I moved to the state that she moved to. I got serious with my relationship with God, and she also became born again. And we were eager to submit our wills to the supreme will of God. So, but I wasn't proposing, so she dumped me. And that's the end of the story. No, I'm kidding. she dumped me and kicked me out of her apartment, and I moved to DC. While I was in DC, we remained in communication because I was in love with her. I just wasn't ready for marriage. I think men approach marriage readiness very differently from women. For us, at least for me, I can speak for myself, it was about Okay, fine. I love the chick. I don't mind marrying her, but I'm jobless. I'm an illegal immigrant. How am I supporting us? I can't be a man. Like, it's a man's job is to provide and do all that. I'm not ready. I can't even pay for the wedding. You know, so I just wasn't ready. Then she got impatient, rightfully so, and she dumped me. But I'm a stubborn guy, like, as I've already said. I kept going at it. A year later, I weaseled my way back into her heart. I proposed because by this time I was halfway into working. I was making some income. I was feeling like, okay, things are going in the good direction. And then we lived apart, separate states, for 2 years after I proposed. Then she left and came home and left me over there. After about 3 months, I realized if I don't follow her, someone else is gonna ponyoka with that chick. So I came home specifically to close that deal and get married. And we did get married. But 11 years had gone by the time we were getting married, which is why I said earlier we dated for 11 years. And for whatever reason, it worked out that way by God's grace. She was patient enough. She gave me a second chance. But through it all, my motives were never in conflict. It's just that my readiness was not in sync with hers. And that can be a very difficult thing to go through. But it helps to be aware. Yeah. Now, if my goal was just to muck around and waste time with her, we would not have survived that period. I mean, I think, and she can speak for herself whenever she wants to be on camera. I think my commitment was evident to some extent to the sanctity of our relationship and all that stuff. And therefore we had a chance of getting there. And even getting there doesn't mean you've made it. We have our whole lives to live with plenty of opportunity to mess up. But if you're in it for the right reasons, then you stand a chance of making a good marriage out of the relationship. Does that answer your question? Awesome. Over to you.
Wow. That's a beautiful story.
You should both drop your kimonos to each other at the right time.
Yeah.
How to do that, I'll let Pius answer.
Yeah. So, but I think what Solo has just said really is the cornerstone of a healthy relationship. And we're not just talking about a romantic relationship, we're talking about any relationship. It must be backed up by genuine care for each other. Even if you're friends, you must genuinely care for each other. Even if you are teammates, you must genuinely care for each other. Even if we are partners, like the way Solo and I are here, we must genuinely care for each other. That's the cornerstone of every relationship. And as Solo, I said,
it was God's grace, had nothing to do with me.
It's true.
I promise you.
But your pitch was smooth.
Hey.
That was a serious pitch. If she had any doubt about whether you care about her well-being, you proved it on that couch.
And I hope she agrees.
That's what it is, you know. You are not there for your own selfish interests. And actually, just picking up my late wife and I on 18th October 2009, when we agreed that we were meant to be together. One of the first actions that I really celebrate we did, the moment we began talking about our wedding, because we set our wedding date immediately. So I was the opposite. We were moving really, really fast. We set the wedding date immediately, and the first action we did was to combine our finances. We laid it bare. Let me put it this way. marriage is the only venture you go into with no plan B. You must have no plan. If you have a plan B and you're entering into marriage, it has already failed before. You get, eh? So let it bear. These are my earnings. These are your earnings. These are my assets. These are your, okay. So we have a project ahead of us. How do you go about it? We actually open a joint account, which I run now until to date. And that was very, very helpful. And I remember one day on the eve of our wedding, we had we went to all our bank accounts, emptied everything, plus joint account, sat in the car, and packed in envelopes. This is money for tent, this is money for food, this is money for that, and we were ready for the wedding, doing it together, jointly. And that's really set us up for success in our marriage, because there are two things they say that are the biggest cause for separation and divorce. One is intimacy, and the second one is finances. They run neck to neck. So I believed, and I still believe that, and as opposed to those days when you were growing up, you know, when your dad is going to work and your mom is like, we need to buy some food today, then he turns and he removes his wallet, and your mom is behind and like, you chomoa some cash, and then he's like, have this, while hiding his wallet. I think it's really sets yourself up for failure, because there is no trust. So we ran it. For me, I understood my purpose in that marriage. My skill, competence is to make money. Our skill, competence was to manage the money. So one made the money, the other one managed the money. I did the investment part, she did the spending part. It was clear roles. And what else? We didn't have my money is our money and her money is her money. We didn't do that. It was my money is our money, her money is our money. Everything was together. So there was no one who was earning less, and there is no one who was earning more. If the pot was one, and that really helped us to make some important decisions. Marriage is the best partnership you can ever find on earth when it works. You can achieve so much when you're aligned in all things, including finances, and especially finances from day one. So this is something for me I'm very passionate about, even for our customers, I love meeting couples, husband, wife, and I love talking to them together, and I love seeing them aligned, and I love seeing them, set goals, achieve the goals together, celebrate together. Then you're part of a unified marriage. But those ones that, the wife tells you, by the way, this one I don't want my husband to know, it's already setting me up in a conflicting way. Because how do I talk to the husband is my client, the wife is my client. Now I've got to have a split personality. So, but for me, that's what I've seen works, and I would recommend.
But that's in marriage, yeah? Not when we're dating.
Oh yeah, not when you really need, by the time when you know you're headed into marriage is the best time to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're making that commitment.
When you're making that commitment that you're going into marriage, that's the time to start folding your me into we.
But honestly speaking, by the time you're there, you should already have a pretty good idea what's going on with the guy and his financial habits, his investment habits, what he has invested in, because those things will come up in conversation. You'll see, and same for you. So it shouldn't be a surprise at that point that, like, what? You own this, you own that. It shouldn't be. I think, just my personal feeling, if that's the situation, then maybe you're not quite ready to get married. Like, take a little more time, allow for more transparency, so that by the time, like Pius says, by the time you're crossing over that threshold, you have already begun to fold into one.